Hello and welcome to Behind the Jokes. I'm Aidan Killian, your host, here every Friday night at the Irish Inquiry at 9 p.m, interviewing some of the greatest minds on the planet, the greatest comedians in the universe. And this week we have a man all the way from Scotland, part of the Great Britain, at least for now, called Stephen Carlin, who I've seen travel all over the world. He does Edinburgh Fringe shows at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival nearly every year. We'll get to talk to him about that. He's a very creative, interesting man, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say for himself. Hello, Stephen. Can you hear me?
I can indeed, Aidan. Yes, and I'm in Brighton in England at the moment. Although I'm very much Scottish, but if there was to be a separation of Scotland at this moment, I would be on the England landmass as we speak.
Yeah? And if there was a separation, I mean, you're kind of safe in Brighton. You'd be away from all the action where they'd be throwing haggises over the wall or whatever you'd be doing.
I suppose I'm nearer to France here than I am to Scotland, where I am, yeah. I would just be on a little rowing boat over to France.
You could do that, like if they brought in the passport thing that they're talking about, the vaccine passport, and you didn't want to get one, and the weather was nice, you could just get on a little boat, like if you had to.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the more lockdown continues, you start having fantasies about escaping and adventures anyway. Like you kind of think you're Phileas Fogg or some sort of Victorian sort of explorer.
I was in Amsterdam and I didn't want to get the nose thing because I don't like it. It's not very comfortable. The PCR test, and someone said, sure, you could just swim across. And for a moment I thought, maybe I could. I wouldn't last 2 minutes in the cold.
Ambitious. I mean, I'm not a good swimmer, so I applaud your ambition of...
well, yeah. I might just get the nose thing. So tell us, Stephen, for the very few of our many millions of listeners, tell us a bit about yourself. You're a comic. Why are you a comic? How did that happen? And tell us anything about yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I've been a comic for a while, the best part of 20 years now. I think looking back on it, I was always destined to do something in the arts. I was very attracted to the theatre as well when I wasn't a kind of kid that had sports or like footballers up on my wall. I was like obsessed with people like Peter O'Toole and stuff, and Peter Cook, and kind of. Did
you actually have posters of them?
I didn't have posters of them, no, because I think I don't know if you could get them in those days. Could you go into HMV and go Peter O'Toole? But I kind of.
You could get Peter Beardsley probably.
I lived in Kilburn in London for many years, and I lived like about 5 or 6 blocks from Peter O'Toole. Latterly, I didn't know it, and I just have this sort of fantasy life that we would probably just miss each other. I just turn around the corner, and then he'd walk along. And my girlfriend at the time was friends with his daughter, and she kind of didn't know who he was, so she would be going around her friend's dad's house, and it was only when he died then she was going around. She was going, "Yeah, is your dad an actor?" It's all these in the theater. I was so furious about it.
You dumped her.
Yeah.
Dare you? Dare you?
So I think I was always kind of interested in performance and all that, and I definitely, as a kid, liked comedy shows on TV the best out of everything. So, but it wasn't any kind of master plan to get involved with it. I think it just, I don't know. It seemed accidental at the time. I mean, I came to London. There was a lot of stand-up show clubs there. There was only at that time, when I came to London in 2001, there was only one permanent comedy club in Scotland, the Stand in Edinburgh. So there wasn't really a big scene there. There was a big scene in London. I used to go and watch a lot of it. I sort of got interested in it. I thought, oh, I'd love to do that just to kind of dare myself. And I then eventually worked up the courage to do it. And then I got hooked on it. But
how did the first set go? Your very first one.
First fluked it. You know, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I was objectively not very good. But I went well, and then you think, oh, this is I can do this, and I spend the next sort of 3 months just dying on your arse, and then trying to recreate it. I'm probably underplaying 3 months, but you kind of, and then I tried to recreate that first hit, as it were. So I got kind of hooked on it, but then it was a case of trying to get good at it, and I mean, I don't know if I'd have the bottle to do it now. I mean, I just sort of, you know what I mean? Because it was not just you used to have to phone up promoters and ask for gigs, and they would sense if you were new. It was almost like an audience can smell if a comedian's nervous. They could smell if you were kind of nervous phoning them for a gig, and they would not book you if you had to kind of, so there was a whole gauntlet of that, and just I used to just turn up at gigs and introduce myself and try to get on. That thing of starting from scratch seems quite daunting now. I think once you've got a bit of experience and people know you a bit, it must be.
It definitely changes, but it's interesting because I was thinking recently about how when I started comedy, how I'd look up the headliners like you. In fact, one of the first time I saw you, we were in the Midlands. You wouldn't remember me, but I was your support act 10 years ago. I'd say it was 2012 or 11, and you were incredible. There's the Funhouse, Mickey something. It was in the Midlands. I was with Stuart Black in his van traveling around England doing gigs.
Yeah.
And you were really intelligent, beautiful, orchestrated comedy that I hadn't witnessed much of in Ireland. Not to be putting Irish comics down or anything, but it was just new. It was very refreshing when I saw you. But what I wanted to say, that I found headliners to be so brave and courageous when I started comedy, because I thought, wow, they're doing this. But now that I've got used to comedy, I realize they're just really good and they've practiced it. So it's not necessarily courage because they know it's going to work, or they have they think statistically likely it's going to work, where it's nearly braver to be new.
I think so. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that, that if a good comedian, like a Tom Stade or somebody's doing something risky, he kind of knows he can get out of it, I think, or there's a good chance he can. But I think when you're new and you don't have this
there's no backup.
A bike when you can't go on a bike, and then somebody going, why don't you just race down that really steep hill?
Yeah, but there's no brakes. Go on, it'll be fine.
So that's the thing, is that when you start, you don't have the wherewithal to get out of situations if you get into trouble. So I think I was braver in the early days, actually, maybe because I had to be. There wasn't the kind of nuance. I think now you take calculated risks on stage. You're reading the room and you go, right, I think this worked, this might be a bit of a risk, but I think then you know how to kind of correct a bit. But I think at the start it is literally like Russian roulette at the start. Like, this might not work and I've got no way of turning it around if it does.
But you live in that place now, Stephen. I witnessed you in Bangkok once doing a comedy show, and somebody broke a glass or stood on glass or made noise with a glass, and you did 10 or 15 minutes just on that bit. I don't know if you remember, but you were really living in the moment.
I remember that gig. Yeah.
You do? Okay.
I can't remember what it was that I did, but I think that's probably the point. It's interesting living at the moment. If I might just bore you to death with a metaphor that I've become. in the absence of comedy, I've got a bit more taking physical risks. I've been
started fights in Glasgow, is it?
Oh, I've been cycling a lot, and then I've got like a mountain bike and a road bike. So the mountain bike, I've been going down. It's not mountains, but it's the South Downs, but some of them still pretty steep. And likewise with the road bike going down steep hills. And I remember before,
I can't take lockdown anymore. Just racing down hills, hoping for the best.
I think about a week before Christmas, I was out and I was coming back down a hill on my road bike. It was wet. It was a very steep hill, and there was a bit where you've got to go between a manhole, which is slippy metal, and this pothole. There's a fine kind of pocket, and I remember thinking, I don't know if, and I'm going about like 40 miles an hour, going, I don't know that I've got this right. But in that moment, and because I used to do a lot of stuff like that as a kid, I'm really calm in that kind of moment. You're really in the moment, and it's obviously the physical risk far bigger than doing stand-up. But I think it's something like that when you're kind of improvising. There is no future or past. There's just, that sounds a bit a kind of half sort of cod psychology, but you're kind of just, and you're not at all naive to the dangers, but you're not worried about them in any way. You're just kind of very accepting of whatever conditions are at that moment, and you just take. I wish I could live life like that. You just execute every decision at the right moment and completely objectively, without innocence of what could potentially go wrong. And
I'm pretty sure that's what the Buddha was all about, just being in the now. Or Edgar Tolle, there's no mind, there's no future, there's no past, there's just you and your bicycle.
I spoke to a guy who did car racing. He understood what I meant. He was talking about that, and he goes, yes, he said to me, I like to get to maximum fear immediately when he's racing in cars. And then you're kind of maxed out on fear. And then it's like, no, I'm not saying that with stand-up, but I must admit, though, I do, when I watch people like Bill Burr, he deliberately gets into trouble with the audience, I think, right away to kind of, I don't know, get on the back foot. I mean, I don't know if that, or to test himself in some way or something, or to give it jeopardy, or to feel electric, I think.
Yeah. Do you know David McSavage? He's a great Irish comic. He's a TV show here called The Savage Eye.
Okay.
Well, he does something similar. I often see that he comes on hard at the audience, kind of really attacks them. And I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I mean, I have the same qualifications as Bill Gates, but I would wonder, does he do it on purpose? Pushes them away before they have a chance to reject him. And then when he's ruined the gig, it's awful. It's really uncomfortable for everyone. He's so brilliant. His mind is just magnificent that he just wins them back until the whole room or most of the room are fully on board. I always wondered, like, why does he hit them hard at the start? Is there a void inside him that he needs pain?
Yeah, I am not sure. I mean, I think it could be, excuse me a second, I've just got to
tie your shoelaces. Flatulate, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
I think it could be psychology, like going chips, because the received wisdom's the opposite, isn't it? You can ease your way in, give something very accessible at the start, but he just kind of chips all in. It's maybe the challenge of it, it's maybe the risk of it. I don't know. Maybe if you're going to do something harsh, you've got to announce it right away as well. Because I think if you go in very nice and sweet, and then 10 minutes in you say something really controversial and nasty, I don't know that they'd kind of go, well, but you're not like that now. You've established. Sure.
You're doing jokes about like your girlfriend, and then all of a sudden you're talking about the Holocaust.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Sanders.
You're better off coming in with the Holocaust.
Yeah, Jerry
then
Sanders.
talking about how long she's taken in the bathroom. Come here, Stephen. How is lockdown in Brighton? What are you up to? Is there any gigs? What's happening? Do you have a lockdown? Fill us in. What's going on there?
Well, is this lockdown 3? Do we call this, or lockdown? I call it lockdown 3, or is it lockdown 2?
I think we just have one giant one in Ireland. The bars have been closed since March, and most people have killed themselves. There's about 8 people left. There's Stephen here in charge of this.
The bars open at one point. I mean, this is. I enjoying it less. Most sequels are worse, aren't they? I'm really
I'm enjoying it less.
Lockdown 1 I quite liked, actually. That was in the summertime. It was warm. I got to live like a civilian, having been at home every night, eating regular meals.
Okay.
Healthy.
Nice.
I think probably extended my life the first lockdown.
And did you have a partner? You have a girlfriend at the time?
Yeah. So I was actually spending quality time seeing her, which was new. And
you didn't decide that you don't like each other or anything, because that happens during lockdowns.
Yeah, I mean, no, we didn't actually. Not so far.
Right,
no, it's been I'm surprisingly stable for in that respect for me. I mean, I kind of lost weight, not on purpose. I maybe the cycling, but I kind of got fit, and I started doing a lot of. This was the first lockdown, drawing and painting. I got back into that, which I hadn't done for many years, and I think it was and I kind of was thinking about things a lot. So I think it was quite a healthy thing. If it had ended about June, July, something, I think that would have been a real boon for me. And then it's kind of now it's like dragged on and on and on. And I'm finding it very difficult. I'm trying to have a routine now because I realise that I'm becoming I was going to say an unemployed person. I suppose I am really, aren't I? But I don't have a kind of.
What gigs do you do? Online gigs? I mean, you said you paint and you do some art for creativity, but what do you do? Because normally you've written for the BBC and you've been radio and ITV, and Stuart Lee called you one of the top 10 best comedians in the world. So normally you're gigging, I'm guessing, at least 5 days a week. Is that about right?
Exactly. Well, I mean,
right.
I've been writing a lot of stand-up, but as you know, you kind of you have to constantly. You can write it at your desk, but you have to work out on stage as well. So that's part of the writing process. So it's like I don't feel that I really can properly.
Go on, you can do it now. There, go on. I'll be your audience. Go on there now. Tell us a few jokes.
Workshop. I've got some half-baked ideas here from lockdown. So yeah, and I think also performing all the time gives you the impetus because you come away from it going, oh, that didn't work. I know what to do with this now. I need to change all this. So I think it's a sort of self-perpetuating sort of inspires you. But I have been trying to this year. 2021. Kind of have a discipline and get up and write and make myself kind of work. But I don't know at what point I'm going to have an outlet to do that material.
So what are you going to do? Okay, so you're managing lockdown. You're healthy. You're getting on with your girlfriend. You're a bit pissed off with it. But what do you see? Just creatively first happening for you, because if this continues and you can't do stand-up on stage, what's plan B? Oh, and what's going on financially for you, if you don't mind me asking? How are you managing? How do you feed yourself?
I'm managing so far. I mean, I have been doing some writing work and some directing work, and my girlfriend's got a radio show, so I've been producing that, which I've had to learn how to edit, and so it's been quite good for that.
What do you do? Just hang off her coattails?
Yeah, I basically just push the knob up a bit and go out.
You're doing great there, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you just speak a bit more? Yeah, that's fine. That's it. So I've kind of I've been doing that. Well, if Santa doesn't return long term, that is a good question. I mean, I assume it will. I'm working on the basis that it will. I suppose I would maybe I'd do art. I mean, I might write in some other capacity and not stand up, but obviously comedy in another capacity. But I think I would be more interested in doing kind of visual arts or something. If because writing, I don't know how you find it. It does my head in sitting at a desk. I mean, I can only do it because I've got the outlet of going on stage and doing that side of it as well. It's a sort of yin and yang. So I really enjoy the live performance and the writing bit, which can be fun, but it can be the kind of a bit purgatory sometimes. It can be, because it's almost like, you know, when a little kid gets a toy piano and they play one note all the time. Doot, doot, doot. Like sometimes sitting writing can be a bit like that. If that was, I mean, my hat's off to kind of Charles Dickens and co. If you just wrote, I think it's very difficult.
How's he managing lockdown?
They're alcoholics. Put it that way.
I do it, but I do it with the writing. I do a post a week on Facebook, but I noticed that I'm doing it for the validation. So before I got the applause breaks from the comedy audiences or the laughter, the audible expression of merriment, and that was my validation. I don't get large paychecks like other people. I don't have a boss to tell me well done, but that's what I get. And now that's gone, I do my weekly, and I get my likes, and then I'm like, oh, you got 100 likes, Aidan. Oh, well done, you. Oh, look how many comments you got.
Well, we all need our little sort of endorphin hits, don't we? And I mean, you know, we've got to get it one way or another. So
you're just snorting dopamine off your Facebook.
Yeah. Is it sort of? I don't know how you find it, because I think comedy community went a bit nuts initially on social media. It seemed to kind of turn in on itself a bit, and there was a lot of kind of. I thought it would be a desire for attention, and it seems to have calmed down a bit now. I don't know, is that the case of your perception of it? There was a lot of attention seeking and angst that was sort of in the mix, which was.
They started eating each other alive, the comedians.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a bit of that. I stayed out of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wonder. I don't know if we're getting ahead here, but not just comedy, but society. And I think there's going to be a big reaction to all this lockdown. Maybe in a few years. I don't think immediately. I'll be interested what that will be. Obviously, from a person and also from an artist point of view. But I think there'll be. I mean, if you think that Trump or Brexit was partly a reaction to the banking crisis, which was like 2008, but that maybe took another sort of 6 years, 7 to manifest, and I wonder if there'll be a reaction to this. I would think because there's such a kind of restriction on people's actions. I mean, I've realised I need people. I didn't think that, because being a comedian, I thought I was a voyeur. I was the outsider looking in, observing. But you realise there's something, you need something to observe, I suppose. But I think the idea that there was society out there, if I wanted it, if I wanted to go to the pub, or that it was there if I wanted it, was kind of, I realised it was quite comforting. Whereas now, it isn't. It's nice to have the option, even if you don't actually take it.
If you don't, it's nice to know that you could.
Yeah.
You never would, but you could.
It's like, I've never been on the London Eye, but it's there if I wanted it, It's
yeah.
But anyway, that's maybe more kind of general society rather than comedy. So I don't know, have I taken you off your...
No. I was just thinking the London Eye reminded me of Funderland, and Funderland is the tiny little version that we have, this terrible thing every year where people eat candy floss and try and lose their children. But I just remember the noise, and then I got caught in that world, how my sister was allowed on the rides, but I was too small, and then I'd get the rejection and be told I'm too small, and then I'd have my sister go, ha! So,
during lockdown, because I've had too much thinking time. I've had lots of bad memories. Yes, like
bad memories. Yeah. Tell us about your bad memories there, Stephen.
I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff. I mean, going way back to school and even before that, I think stuff going that wasn't right. I think.
Well, that's a good part of lockdown. It gives you time to think, or should I say, it gives you time to observe the thoughts that you may have passing by.
Ruminate, and
that's beautiful comedy there. That's real material, when you can see the thoughts and you're not occupied by them. You're not going on the ride, but you can see it as an objective person. So instead of being the person watching people in the bar, for example, you can just be watching the madness in your own head. I'm guessing that would be interesting. What's your next show about? Well, you probably have a show. What are you writing?
Well, the working title at the moment is A Trial of Stephen C. Obviously,
I don't know anything about that. Tell me more.
Franz Kafka stole my idea, but before me, But I think it. I mean, it's sort of about how I'm trying to work out the rules of society by getting into trouble. I think that's and even things like what we can't. How do we get remembered? What are we remembered for? You can't really define yourself. We like to. So I kind of all talking about me and people, but also historical figures, and it's I mean it's various routines, but I'm hoping to kind of gel them.
How are you getting in trouble?
Well, socially. I don't mean like in trouble in a Larry David sense and Curb Your Enthusiasm, not like in a sort of getting into arrested or something.
You're not going into supermarkets without masks on, just taking what you want and leaving.
No, I don't mean criminal things like that. But
okay.
I mean, but mind you, I don't know what the rules of society is going to be when it starts again. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't entirely nail down what the rules were before, but I'm sure they're going to have changed by the time we reconvene as people.
And how do you feel about that? Is that something you welcome or you're suspicious of? What do you think of all these regulations and rules and new norms and resets? And
I suppose even if it's necessary, I'm very alarmed by how much people have just gone along with it, and even people who regard themselves as rebels and like in my home Scotland has been very kind of compliant. I think more so than England from what I've anecdotally what I've been. I know we'd spoken about the Jonathan Sumption. He was a former English judge who was in the British Supreme Court.
Oh yeah, tell us about that again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a while back.
Yeah, he's on the kind of libertarian end of things, and he is obviously questioning, even if it's good from a health point of view, the long-term effects on liberty and the relationship of the individual to the state and so on are very big, because he was quoting that emergency powers that the British government took in World War II have never been lifted, some of them, because they said these will last until the emergency ends. But the emergency has never been officially declared over of the Second World War. So there will no doubt be some powers that they will take for the pandemic, maybe necessary, that they think, well, just keep these, might be, and I wonder if I don't know whether people will get more used to being, if they're going to be more compliant because they've got more used to that, or if they're going to then rebel. This is what I was saying a bit earlier, and they'll rebel against it in a number of years. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm not at the point of view it's a big orchestrated thing to make people comply, but I think that there are difficult, because there is definitely a public health reasons for having the restrictions, although there's obviously other negative health effects from that as well. People, cancer treatment, mental health, so on. But there's also other issues with liberty and the kind, our relationship to the government, and whether. I mean, there's no point in history before he made this point where the state has gone, this is who you can meet in your own home.
No, it's madness, isn't it?
So, and it's
absolute madness.
I think, as I said, even if it's necessary, I'm surprised people don't question it more, or not more kind of rebelling. I find that kind of worrying in a way. Even if the rebellion was wrong, I think it was a kind of healthy instinct to.
And I would have thought now that people would be questioning things more in England, and let me say that carefully.
Yeah.
Because the people of Ireland, it's not that long ago that, and maybe Scotland too, it wouldn't be that long ago. Like my grandmother's grandmother would have been, part of the famine. My other grandfather had a farm, and he had to pay money to the English still.
Yeah.
I forget the word, but it's not that long ago that we were in chains or shackles or in bondage or in indebted servants. It's not that far away. Whereas the English have been free for so long. They've been the empire. They've had this pride, this long history of being the kings and being and I would have thought they wouldn't put up with it. Whereas I kind of expect the Irish to go, sure, go on, it's grand, I'll do what I'm told. Yeah, 5 kilometres, is it? Oh yeah, go on. I'm just going to the chemist. I'm sorry, I'll turn around.
That's not my stereotype of them, but it's interesting. Obviously, you've grown up in Ireland. They've got a different perspective. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. The Scottish, I don't think the Scottish were ever subjugated by England in the way that Ireland was, but I think we were probably part of the subjugation. But I think there is a kind of a sort of Presbyterian strain. But if you go back to the Scottish Enlightenment, there was a real.
You guys are enlightened, are you, or is that just the Glaswegians?
That was at one point. I think we forgot it, but it was quite a libertarian, individualistic sort of culture at that time. And I think that like people like David Hume and Wealth of Nations guy and all that. Forget his name now, but he's got a statue in Kirkcaldy. Adam, the economist.
Adams. Scott Adams. No.
Adam Smith.
Oh, good man. Phew.
Yeah.
Oh, Holy Mary, Mother of Jesus, thank you.
But I think all that's gone. I think. I don't know what Adam Smith's position on COVID is, but
he never wears a mask. Never wears a mask. No. Wouldn't wear one from Adam.
No, wouldn't know. I think it depends where you go to though, and I've sort of been in London where it's been people observe it differently. I think. Some people that don't observe it as much. I think.
Well, sure. I'm guessing everybody there is like here. They're talking about the vaccine.
Yeah.
Some people won't get it. They wouldn't be into it. But most people seem to be all right with it. At least what the newspapers are saying. So what are the papers saying over there, and what's your general feeling or excitement? Are you excited about the vaccine?
No, really. I mean, if it brings us to an end, I suppose. But I don't really know enough about it, to be honest. I mean, it's people. I wouldn't say people are excited about it, but I think they're sort of it's a sort of roadmap out of it, I suppose. But then I don't know, because I hear stuff about the vaccines, and then sometimes I think, are they conspiracy theorists? But then I don't know, because some people saying the vaccines are different from what they used to be. There's a kind of thing that affects your DNA or something. I don't know. So what do you know about it?
I don't know. I read different bits. Like some of the bits I read. Again, I'd also question the conspiracy theories, but I don't know that much about vaccines, first of all. That's my starting place. I know that everyone says they're great. In general, I don't like people sticking things inside me. Just not into that, right? I'm not judging other people. I'm not vaccine phobic. I just, listen, keep it to yourself. But what they say is that it comes from fetuses from the 1970s, but they're not actually fetuses. They're derivatives or copies of cells from it. But the thing is, let's say it was a male child and then it could go into you, or a female child and it could go into you. Does that mean that you now have a mix between male and female DNA? And then when I was reading it, it was like you can't have kids. Like there was a lot of that talk where it affects your ability to have children. But that's mainly if you're a woman, and I'm not, so it doesn't really affect me, does it? I'm all right, Jack.
Well, that's all right. Norm Macdonald,
he's funny.
Yeah, he did a line where he went, so Big Pharma is good now, eh? Suddenly everyone likes him. I mean,
no, Big Pharma, like, why would we trust them?
So yeah, I don't know, because we could be going in 50 years from now. What was everybody saying? Or we judge people in history, don't we? We go, why didn't they do that at the time? And then when you're in history, in the moment, you're like, oh, what's the right thing? It's more difficult. It's more compromised.
But it doesn't seem that. First of all, have you had COVID, or do you know anyone who has it, or had it, or died from it, or any of the above?
I know. I don't know if I had it. I was very ill, January 2020. The kind of cold. It didn't seem like flu. It seemed like very severe cold. I don't know if it was that or something, but it was something unusual about it, and a lot of people do that at the time. I don't know anybody personally that's had COVID. I know of people that have had,
Yeah, my rule is you have to have had a dinner with them. If you say you know someone who died of COVID, or they've long COVID, they can't smell, and it's been 6 months, have you had a dinner with them? No, but my friend's cousin was walking a dog, and the dog waved at someone once, and I'm pretty sure it's them.
I do know people that, what I mean is, there are people who've had it that I have met in the past, but I haven't met them since they've had, there's some people in Scotland but they're not that close that I'm a regular.
Right. I've had it. I've had it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
No, well, I didn't go on about it. I've also had hangovers, but I didn't go on about that as well. It was grand. I've had worse.
Trump had it for about the shortest time ever, didn't he?
8 minutes. What a legend. I mean, I'm not taking sides, but he just went, yeah, I had it, I'm grand. And he's walking around with no mask. I wonder, did he just say he had it for a laugh, just to wind people up?
We'll never know now, I suppose, until the books come out. But even then, will we?
It's very hard to know. He's hiding out in Florida, where they don't. They kind of do what they want out in Florida, is what I heard. Everybody carries on as per usual.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of got the older population, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of older people retired, and actually, they seem to be
managing
cavalier.
Yeah, managing fine. Same stats as California. So how's that? So right, so you're going to become a famous visual artist in the future if this stuff, you're not convinced about vaccines.
I got into a bit of spray painting in the summer. I can't really do it at the moment because I've got to do it outdoors because of the fumes. Well, maybe I should do it, and also because of the mess as well. Because I don't think my girlfriend will like me just destroying her house with spray paint all over the place. But I was doing it outside, and once I'm hoping to get back into that once the good weather, or even when I say the good weather, when I can hold a spray can without gloves, like when
you're not frozen,
when it doesn't, the paint doesn't freeze between coming out of the can and hitting the
little ice cubes just bouncing off the wall.
Yeah, it's really funny because in London, if you go to buy spray paints, the art shop's got a massive cage on it, and obviously you've got to because they're really, careful about who they sell it to. And then you go into the same branch or brandy shop in Brighton. It's just it's just all out there, and it's just very free, and you can just.
And how do they decide that? So they have a cage, and they decide by the look of your face. How do they know?
You're going to spray a tube train, I think. Something.
Yeah. Well, how did they make that call? Is it by the look of your face, or the clothes you're wearing?
I don't know.
Or your accent? I mean.
Well, I think they look at me and go, he couldn't possibly be cool, so he's fine. And he couldn't possibly have his own crew.
I don't know. I don't know. You're getting more and more scruffy the longer these lockdowns go on. You used to wear suits. I've never seen you without a shirt on until now. They've broken you.
I know it has. I did make an effort to dress properly for a while. I thought, but because I always thought if I was the only person left alive, I would still use cutlery. But would I, Aidan? Because
would you? No.
I'm not dressing. I do get dressed every day. I don't lounge about in my dressing gown, but the quality of how I'm dressing is. I'm even wearing trainers at the moment. I don't disrespect you.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no tours. Have you any gigs? Have you any gigs at all booked for the future?
No, I don't think I've got. I don't think I've got a single one. But I mean, I think there was a period where I booked them in, and then they would be cancelled anyway because as we approached, the only real, I mean, I've done some Zoom gigs. I did a run of gigs in Dubai in the middle of sort of lockdown, just in September, and I was out there, and by the end of the run, I sort of gone, I'm back, kind of fighting fit now, and then it's just stopped. So it's a kind of weird It's a weird thing. I'm almost waiting to see if it starts up proper, and then I don't want to give myself false hope anymore.
I think you were booked in Amsterdam. Is that true? Or
Yeah,
half booked?
yeah, I was. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard about that. They were excited about it, and I was, I was.
Yeah, I
looking
was.
forward to it.
That was one of the first gigs that was cancelled. Actually, I think that was April or something. I was meant to be out there.
Yeah, there's curfews here now as well. At night time, you can't go out after 10 p.m. or they'll arrest you. No, 9 p.m. And then there was a few riots. People didn't like it. First time since the Germans were visiting.
That's amazing because you think of the Dutch as very kind of, I suppose, and the rights and stuff and freedom.
Well, yeah. Anyway, they didn't like it. I mean, it's not nice to be told you can't go out after a certain hour because COVID apparently is much worse after 9 p.m. It's more severe. Yeah.
Kind of. Well, that once it has a beer in it, COVID, kind of. Wow. So I didn't know that at all. Sorry.
Well, there you go. Anyway, but I'm coming home. I'm coming home back to Ireland in about 2 weeks. And I'm coming there for good. And we have a rule where we can't travel 5 kilometers more than your home. Wherever your home is, you have to stay within 5 kilometers or the policeman pulls you over and asks you where you're coming from or where you're going. And most people answer those questions, which is not very intelligent considering that they're the ones under investigation. So they're bearing false witness against themselves. But usually they could just say, I don't want to answer your question. Like it could be that simple. Yeah, I'm not going to answer your question. So what do you do when the police pull you over where you are? Or does that not happen?
I've never been pulled over. But I mean, my assumption is, I heard somebody saying that if you were to get, because some of these fines are ridiculous, you could get 10 grand or something, which is, I think, up before COVID, that the most automatic fine you could get is about 200 quid for something. I mean, if it's more than that. So some of the fines are ridiculous. You could get up to 10 years, in theory, in prison for if you're coming into the airport and lie about where you've been. But I don't think, you're saying it would take, there's such a backlog in the courts, it would take to 2023, right, to actually have your court case or something. And I just think this stuff will never stand up. If you got an automatic fine, and I think if you challenged it, I think it would be not. Don't you think? Because I think it's only I think if there was a test case, it might be trying to be against them. I don't know. So I'm assuming a lot of it's just a bluff because they're going, well, I mean, we'll do this and we'll fine you. But I think if you challenge it, this is based on no legal training.
No legal qualifications whatsoever. You should do this. Well, I'm doing a tour around Ireland, Stephen. I've got a tour in 20-something counties going around Ireland starting in March and April. And I don't know what the rules will be then, but I will be travelling in my car freely. And if any man, woman or human acting as policeman or other peace protector or whatever they call themselves, I won't be answering any questions because why would I do that? I'm not going to give them evidence that they can use against me. I'll just go, listen, I'll be traveling this way. I won't be answering your questions. Respect my privacy and have a lovely day. Everything you need is on the windscreen. And then I want to do this, but it's actually an electric.
Well, I mean, we've had these discussions before, I think, before COVID, but where you had similar conversations with the police. So I think you've thought about it a lot.
I have.
If I thought about what would happen if the police pulled me, I think you've either got a lot of experience of being pulled over. you think about, I'd be walking away going, oh, I wish I'd said that.
Do you know what I did, Stephen? It happened to me once. I was driving this beautiful old Mercedes. It was my friend's. He gave it to me. And this policeman, Garda, pulled me over. We called him Gardaí. And I was having none of it. I opened the window that much. And I went, yeah, what? And he goes, excuse me, sir, sorry. Your engine, there's a lot of smoke coming from it. I just thought maybe you should check it out. And then I realised he was the nicest guard. I was rude for no reason, and he was just helping me. That'll teach me.
Yeah. You should have gone in with the Buddhist thing of being neutral.
No, I do now. Now I actually love them. We're lucky.
Ahead of the moment.
Stephen, I have to wrap this up. I want to tell people Stephen Carlin really is a brilliant comic, and I mean that. I've seen comics all over the world, so please do go and check him out on YouTube. Just stick in the name Stephen Carlin.
Stephen Carlin Comedian is my YouTube channel, and please subscribe to that. And you can see me there, looking less dishevelled, I think.
He'll be wearing a shirt.
Yeah, a shirt, suit, and no trainers.
He's be footless. He'll be barefootless. Come here. One last thing. How do you see it? Give me. What's the best image that you can see? What's the solution to all this? And give me the best case scenario, or any case.
Okay. I mean, I hope it's going to, because if people have been locked down so much, that it's going to reinvigorate live performance, and I hope that people are going to, watch less comedy on TV and go to see more of it live now. And I hope there's going to be a real renaissance, but who knows? Because everyone might be bankrupt and not be able to afford it out. This is the thing.
Oh no.
Look, we're comedy. We're a cheap date. So I hope it's going to, because I am really missing the society, being out and you know what I mean. Go to the pub, you meet all kind of different people from different walks of life and that sort of thing, and it's just that as I think Basil Fawlty once said, that avenue of pleasure has been closed off, and so I hope there's going to be real. Maybe I was going to say it'll get us off our phones. I don't know if it will though. Just like going like that. I don't think it'll become more dependent on technology. But do you think we're going to rebel against it and go?
I don't know. If I haven't really thought about the technology. I suppose all going well, there'll be a roaring 20s where people will spend all the borrowed money. But at some stage, we're probably going to have to pay it back to whoever we borrowed it from.
There's going to be the roaring 20s. Then people going about with wheelbarrows full of cash, or it'll just be like plastic, obviously. And then some Hitler figure is going to arrive in 2033 or something. Is that your prediction? Sorry, you said, how do we get out of this? I've ended up on some dystopia.
Yeah, let's end on dystopia.
Trying to be positive. You sort of went. I think it'll be good for a bit, and then I think there'll be the heat death of the universe. How about that? I mean, I think the sun will burn out in about 1 billion years. But I think that till then, it's all played for, kids. You can check out my YouTube channel until the sun explodes.
And you all die. Well, before then. Listen, thanks for doing it. Thanks for being here. Great to see you again. I look forward to seeing you on stage.
And great to see you as well.
Yeah, take care, man.
Yeah.
See you next week, guys.